And if, by the way, as we are working on right now, if we would be able to show that the same vocal biomarkers that can detect heart problems in the US work also in China and work also in other countries, that really shows that, there's a lot more commonalities than the other way around when it comes to different people, different countries.
Welcome to Digital Mindfulness. I'm your host, Lawrence Ampofo. Today we're here with Yuval Mor, the CEO of emotion analytics and affective computing company Beyond Verbal. Beyond Verbal specializes in analyzing and decoding emotions from your voice. You should listen to this show if you want to understand how machine-coded emotions have cross-cultural similarities, how such technologies can be applied from customer experience to mental health treatment, and how your phone might soon know your mental health before you do. But first of all, welcome to the show. For over 3 years now, we've brought you the best teachers and thought leaders from around the world to teach you how to be your best self in a digitally distracted age. If you're new to our show, then the best place to find out much more about us is to visit digitalmindfulness.net/start, which has a collection of some required listening podcasts where we discuss everything from becoming more focused to habit building, cyberbullying, and much, much more. Okay, enjoy the show with Yuval Mor. So Yuval, welcome to Digital Mindfulness. I'm really pleased that you could make it here today, and I'm really fascinated to learn more about the work that you've been doing in emotion analytics. So welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, and I'm really excited to be on the show and to have the opportunity to share with the audience, mostly about the things that we do, because we believe that it can have a really interesting impact on many different things that are going to happen in our lives. So I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
So Yuval, let's begin, if you would, just right at the beginning and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and particularly your journey to starting Beyond Verbal. How did it all begin?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I was born and raised and grew up in Israel, and actually served as a software engineer in the Israeli army for about 8 years. And I did my undergrad in computer science and economics in the Tel Aviv University. And after I finished my 8 years of military service and my undergrad, I wanted to take some time off, and I went to travel, actually, then wanted to move from the technology side to the business side. And I was very fortunate to be involved in 4 startup companies before I started Beyond Verbal. One of these companies was based in Israel, and I was there from the beginning until after an IPO. Then I moved to Silicon Valley, and I lived in Silicon Valley for about 10 years. I did my graduate degree at Stanford and was involved in 3 startups that were acquired in the Bay Area. And then after I came back, a very good friend of mine from my military days introduced me to the technology, the core technology that is behind what we are doing at Beyond Verbal, and to the scientists that developed this. And I got extremely excited with the potential of the technology, so we decided to start a completely new company. And I was one of the founders of this company, and we acquired the technology from this scientist, and he joined our team as our chief scientist, and this is how we started the company.
Wow, that's great. So Yuval, tell us a little bit about that period of time in Silicon Valley, because I imagine with you being around all of these startups in the time that you were there, it must have been a really formative period for you.
So time in Silicon Valley was phenomenal. I was there between 1998 and 2008. So for a period of 10 years, was just around the time that Steve Jobs came back to Apple. I guess if you take any period of 10 years in Silicon Valley, there's always something going on. But the internet revolution was just starting. Remember, it's in 1998. And I think my most impactful learning experience was to see how you can think about chart like a future, have a vision, and having the right tools to go and chase your dream. Yeah. And in a way, people look at Israel as like a small Silicon Valley in the sense that a lot of the ecosystem that exists in Silicon Valley exists also in Israel. The venture capital, the human capital, people that are coming out of the military and education and so on, and people that are ready to chase their dreams. So in a sense, what I think people in Israel are missing is just charting a big enough vision. And at least in the past, we were lacking this. And spending time in Silicon Valley and then bringing this back to Israel was a phenomenal experience.
Great stuff. So let's move on now to talking about the technology itself and, especially this thing that got you so excited to move there in the first place. What are emotion analytics and why are they so important?
So generally speaking, what we are doing at Beyond Verbal is we focus on the tone of voice of a speaker. And I mean only tone of voice. We don't understand the words or the meaning or the content, only tone of voice, which, by the way, makes the technology, language, and culture independent, which is really interesting when you think about the human race in general. And what we are trying to do is to extract as many insights as possible from this tone of voice. We divide these insights into three main categories. Mm-hmm. The first one is the ability to understand the emotions of the speaker in real time or in offline, but along many different parameters. What is the mood? What is the attitude of the speaker? Second category is when you're starting to track these emotions over time, which really translates to the emotional wellness or emotional well-being of the speaker, how he or she is doing today versus last week versus their average, if they are on prolonged stress periods of time or excitement or tiredness, and how it ties to different life events, if they change jobs, or if they change, their practice, exercise routines, and so on. So one category was emotions, the other is wellness. The third one, which is really, I guess, mind-boggling, is under what we call health or vocal biomarkers, and this is the ability to create direct association between voice acoustic features, voice features, something that is really unique to us, and specific health conditions. So in a way, being able to detect health conditions and monitor over time variety of health conditions. And when you think about how all these three things combine to like body and mind, this whole thing that really is who we are as human beings, and how this can impact our ability for early detections, for remote monitoring, remote home care, and so on. It's really an exciting thing to deal with on a daily basis.
This is absolutely fascinating, Yuval, because I think even just listening to you there's so much I hadn't considered about just how powerful and how much information the tones of our voice have.
And I'll give you a very interesting example that I only learned later on is, and this has to do with the old Chinese medicine, or what they call traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. When people used to go, the whole concept of the medical system in China, the doctors, their role was to keep you healthy. As long as they kept you healthy, you were paying them because they were doing their job. And if you got sick, they failed in their jobs, and this is when you're not. So unlike, Western world, which is more like, it's not healthcare, it's sick care in a way. In China, it's completely different. And what's interesting in China is that the doctors, when you would come to see your doctor, he would do all kinds of weird things to you as a patient. He would look at you, he would smell. Chinese doctors would smell the patients. And the other thing they were doing is listening, not to the actual words that you say, but how you say these words, in order to be able to detect different medical conditions. So in a way, we can now codify or really articulate traditional Chinese medicine practices that have been around for thousands of years.
As you're talking now, I just had so many ideas of places that emotion analytics could be used, because it's such a powerful thing to be able to detect things that people might not necessarily say, but are given away in the tones of their voice. But can you share some cases where emotion analytics have been used and are particularly impactful?
So now we are getting into the kind of from the vision to the practice, or the way the Americans like to call it, where the rubber meets the road. And here we divide it into the things that are ready for commercialization and things that are still in research. So the things that are ready for commercializations are exactly around what you mentioned, which is the emotions analytics, the things in the emotion side. And there, by the way, one of the things we realized is that there are so many use cases that the technology can be applicable to, that for us as a startup companies, we can never deal with all of these opportunities. And frankly, we are not sure that we are capable or interested. But what we can do is harness the creativity of application developers and enterprises by giving them access to our technology. So now we have our technology available as a cloud-based service, and we let application developers license it. And they're using it for such an amazing variety of use cases, starting from coaching to sales training, to dating, to job interviews, to what people call organizational well-being, just measure the temperature of employees. And you name it. There are dozens and dozens of application developers that are using it for different things. And it's phenomenal. This is a great way for us to collaborate with them, help them as much as we can, but let them really free their mind and go after their own dreams.
So with different developers and companies using your tools and your APIs, I'm really fascinated to know, Yuval, whether you can share at an aggregate level any insights on the information that is encoded, like in our voices, the hidden messages that come through from the way we speak, and particularly those that transcend national boundaries, or things that kind of link us together as a human society. Is there anything you can share with us?
So this is a very, very interesting question, because when we say that our technology is language or culture independent, and people start asking, more specifically about this, it's interesting to notice that when we are talking about like the strong emotions, the unambiguous emotions, it doesn't matter if this is a German guy, a Swedish guy, a Japanese guy, a Chinese guy. When they are angry, you can hear that they are angry. And when they are happy or when they are in love, you can hear that they are in love. And the intuitive example I give to people is the following. Imagine that you are watching a movie with a foreign language that you don't understand, and there are no subtitles there. You could still, as a human being able to feel what's going on between the heroes and the leading actors. whether they are in love, whether they are angry or anxious or afraid. And it doesn't matter. Now, it's not only the tone of voice, it's all of the things that are being generated by our limbic system. It's not the cognitive part, but it's the precognitive part. And that's common across cultures, which is, by the way, another interesting example is if you take a baby from one country and bringing the baby to another country for an adoption, the baby can still understand at a very young age, before they understand words, definitely before they see and so on, they can understand what are the emotions that their adopting parents are projecting, and it doesn't matter where they were born. So intuitively, there is something there that makes us really common across the human race.
You know, one thing I'm thinking, Yuval, is that if you say that your technology can help to understand people, what they're trying to say cross-culturally through the tone of their voice, then that will go a really long way to helping people understand each other and kind of cut through miscommunication, misinterpretation, particularly online, where it's really easy to do that and is a source of misunderstanding and upset.
So, I see it now because we have a demo application. It's called Moody's, Moodies, and it's available for Android and iPhone. And we use it mostly to demonstrate to people the technology, that it's even possible to analyze emotions through the tone of voice and so on. And when I come and visit different people, different countries, I show them on myself how it's being used, so they are more relaxed. And they are starting to use it. So just the ability, and they use it in their own languages, just the ability to create this laughter around something like this, and it can detect it, it doesn't. So it's a great way to create this communication. Even this is really making a big difference. So yes, people realize that at the end of the day, the differences are not that big. And if, by the way, as we are working on right now, if we would be able to show that the same vocal biomarkers that can detect heart problems in the US work also in China and work also in other countries, that really shows that, there's a lot more commonalities than the other way around when it comes to different people, different countries.
So as artificial intelligence becomes much more mainstream, as it becomes more integrated into even consumer devices, I'm wondering, Yuval, are you particularly concerned with its potential impacts on our lives, particularly as emotional analytics would make a great deal of use of artificial intelligence?
So, there is a big debate right now, and there are almost like, two different camps. The Mark Zuckerberg camp that says, AI is so great and is going to do only good, and the Elon Musk and Bill Gates kind of camp. So, I'm humbled by this, and I think that what, from my perspective, like with every technology, it's true for internet in general, for cybersecurity, for Bitcoins. There's always the potential. Definitely nuclear energy and so on. There is ways to use it in a good way, and there is a way to use it in a bad way. The fact that President Putin of Russia said that the world will be dominated by the best AI engineers or best AI countries. And what we are seeing right now, with fake news, with the ability to use AI in harmful ways, definitely should raise alerts for people to very thoroughly look into it, not just leave it as is, because left to its own devices, I think it can also create a lot of damage. So I really admire, applause, really appreciate people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates that are raising also the concern, because it's very easy to overlook the concern. And I think it would be a big mistake.
So you've mentioned previously that Beyond Verbal is a cloud-based tool, and it's something that developers have access to. But I'm wondering if you can just share some of the challenges that developers have had in creating meaningful products around emotion analytics.
So I think first and foremost, a lot of the developers don't realize that something that they need might be available out there. I think actually the younger generation they really have this mindset that either what I need is available, or if not, I can invent it. And that's really an amazing mindset. So I think the first thing is for these developers to understand that it's possible to analyze emotions, through the face, through the tone of voice, through the hand gestures, and so on. Second thing is emotions are complicated and they are not necessarily straightforward. So, when we see it and we see that within a sentence of 1 minute, 2 minutes, you have a lot of your emotions coming in and out. So I think now the challenge is, okay, so what do I do with this? What is really dominant? What is really important? What has influence? So I understand these emotions. What do I do with them? These are the things that are the challenging areas for our application, for the application developers that are using our technology. And this is where we are trying to help them as much as possible. And again, I can give you an example. We are using the technology in areas such as market research. We're working with very big brands that want to analyze what their customers really feel about their products, packaging, services, experiences, and so on. So with them, it's one thing just to analyze the emotions, and it's another thing to say, okay, what's the higher level insights that we can give them that can help them differentiate between the better brands and the excellent brands and so on. So the insights are really important here.
This is all super interesting. But I think from my part, I think with emotion analytics being in the hands of developers and of companies, the companies who already have so much of my personal data, it does concern me a little bit that this is just yet another incredibly personal data stream that companies will have access to in order to, I don't know, perhaps sell me more things that I don't believe that I need.
So, definitely one of the things that we as Beyond Verbal have a responsibility for is to make sure that our technology is not being abused or being used for malicious intent. That's why our license agreement, what's called the EULA, the end user license agreement, is very strict about not being used for malicious intent and actually giving us the authority, the license to cut services that we believe that is being used for malicious intent or something without the agreement of the user and so on. So that's one thing. The other thing, we definitely need to put a lot, and we are putting a lot of energy in terms of keeping the security and the access and so on. What makes people a little bit more relaxed with our technology is the fact that we are not analyzing or understanding any of the words or the meaning. So it's only really the emotions that is coming out of the tone of voice and not the content. Makes people a little bit more relaxed with our technology than with technologies that are doing speech to text and so on.
Great stuff. So Yuval, can you tell us what is the future for Beyond Verbal?
I think that once you get a handle of what's possible with the technology, then it's becoming pretty clear. in the sense that, we call now our mobile devices, we call them smartphones. But a year from now, 2 years from now, the same way now that the iPhone X is integrating understanding of emotion through the face, the devices around us, whether it would be the Amazon Echo or all the smart home devices, IoT devices, mobile devices, they wouldn't be called smart phones if they wouldn't be able to understand what am I feeling right now as a user. It's going to be a basic capability. Now, with emotions understanding and giving these devices the ability and the users to understand better, just think about you having a mother or father that live far away, and you can get an alert that says, hey, your mother is not in a very good mood today. Why don't you call her, send her flowers, see how she's doing, and so on? Or you'll get an alert that says, listen, your spouse is so angry today, you might as well just go directly to the nearest pub and don't come home until it's very late. It's going to be integral part of human to human as it is right now, but through machines kind of communication. If we would be able to add on top of it a layer that would also tell you, listen, looks like there are some changes in your voice that could indicate something that leads to like a medical condition. And again, the idea is not to tell you rush to the hospital, but why don't you call your doctor and he can see through some of these things. So if we would be able to use the technology to tell you before, let's say, a heart event is going to happen, 24 hours, 48 hours. That's huge. And it looks like it would be possible to do just from the tone of voice. So I am completely, now from my perspective, it's not so much a question of if, but more like a question of when and the reliability levels and so on. But it's definitely going to get there. And because the roots are there from, like we mentioned before, the Chinese medicine, then you know that it's just a natural evolution.
As you're talking there, I'm even thinking that this technology has tremendous potential in the area of, for example, mental health. That if my phone can tell me using this technology that I don't know, that I'm depressed, without me even being aware of it, that it's able to provide me my data over a period of time, and that can actually spot periods in my life when I do feel that way, then that can be incredibly important, not just for me, but for millions of people that suffer from this.
And, there are some very intriguing videos out there that show how kids that are on the autistic spectrum, when they are alone in a room with like a humanoid or small robot, they are communicating in an amazing way. And the minute, not just that an adult, but even one of their parents is walking into the room, the whole behavior is changing. So the ability to let, kids on the autistic spectrum or, Asperger and so on, to be able to understand the emotions of other people in real time, that's a huge thing. And like I said at the beginning, this is really one of the reasons that a lot of the people in the company are coming, in the morning to the office with a lot of excitement, is because these are really impactful, areas that has a lot of potential to make a very big impact.
This is great stuff. I think this is really inspiring work that you're doing. Where can people find out more about you and your work and connect with you?
The easiest, best way is to go to our website, beyondverbal.com. We actually have a very active Twitter account that not just talks about the things that are beyond verbal related, but things that are happening in the industry in general. So these would be two amazing sources to keep in touch, learn what's new. Definitely the Twitter and the website, the great place to start.
Well, thanks so much for spending time with us today, Yuval, and explaining this incredible work that you're doing. I wish you all the best with it.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and I'd be happy to catch up at a later stage to talk about the development. Thanks for your time.